Guys like my woke hat? I'm pretty woke today, so I'm gonna be woke in this video as I talk about approaching women and give you the woke way of doing it. That's fine. I'm Paul, Apex Mindset. Subscribe, hit the notification bell after the video is done. Get on my email list. Link is in the description. No spam or ads, just content of value that we can't talk about on YouTube. Free reports, stuff like that. All right, cool. So let's talk about approach. All right, approaching women. So cold approach is a very good skill set to have. A lot of you guys are on dating apps, and that's your primary means of doing it. That's cool. I'm not discounting it. To be honest with you, dating apps are a lot more work than cold approach. Unless you're bad at cold approach, in which case then cold approach is painful. So some of you guys are not good at it. I mean, that is what it boils down to, really. I don't care what rationalization you want to give me. You're not good enough at cold approach for it to be effortless, which is why dating apps are easier for you. No shame in that game, okay? That's fine. But the benefit of cold approach and being able to take a woman that you've never met before, engage her, and get her to have a level of desire for you to want to take a next step, okay? Which means, let's say, go out sometime, location change, spend a little more time with you right there in that current location, escalate attraction, arousal, okay, those sorts of things. That's a valuable skill set, you know what I mean? And so that's a skill set that if you can do this and master this, then when you meet a girl for the first time, because what do you think is going to happen? Obviously, we all should know what's going to happen. You meet a girl that you just met off of your dating app, okay? Or off of social media. You've never met in this context before, all right? Or you're doing social circle game and, you're working on. You still have to take this woman from here, which I don't know, let's not in the bedroom with you, to the bedroom with you. Okay, let's just break it down like that. Okay, you have to take her from wherever she's at into desiring you enough to want to be in a sexual, romantic, whatever you want to call it, relationship or exchange with you. Okay, so to get her to want to have that sexual exchange with you requires you to be able to communicate to her hindbrain that you're desirable in terms of mating. You're someone who's desirable to mate with. All right, that's what game and pickup is. But it's not so much pickup, but what's what game is you're communicating to her instinctual brain sexual signals and attractiveness. Okay, so she wants to have you as a sexual component and a partner in her life because you are able to communicate that attractiveness to her hindbrain, okay, to her primitive sexual brain. And then the emotions and stuff will follow that, and then she will logic or reason why it's a good idea to sleep with you, all right? Or justify it afterwards, whatever it may be, right? And so that's how that kind of works. And so when you are good at cold approaching or handling a woman you've never met before, to get her from I've never met you to desiring you as a sexual partner, that's a very powerful thing and it's a powerful skill set to have. And at the end of the day, you need that skill set. I don't care if you are doing online dating or not, you need to be able to have that skill set. And trying to escalate through dating apps is a waste of time because women are time wasters on social media and apps. So they like to take your validation to prop themselves up so that they can actually have the sexual relationship with somebody else, all right? And so that's, you have to vet out. You should be spending more time on, if you're on the app, spending more time with the numbers, okay, collecting as many options as you can, picking the ones with the highest desire that you're attracted to, but who demonstrates high desire for you. There are some things you can do, via text exchange and video chat or phone call to escalate, but it's very little. You want to get them, of course, in a meeting. But what you're trying to do is you spend a lot of time vetting out time wasters on apps, okay? And if you don't, do that, you're gonna just have your time wasted. Um, so, having the skill set for a cold approach is just extremely valuable. And if you're good at it, then you can have women, an abundance of women, pretty much anywhere you go. Right? It doesn't have to be contextual either. All right? So I'm going to show you two different ways of just the actual from the approach piece. All right? It's kind of like, and a lot of this stuff I had to kind of dissect how my brain works. I had to dissect, and there's going to be a couple videos I'm going to do on this. And this is kind of like I learned a bunch of communication skill set, pickup skills, and game skills. Got to a point where I was getting just massive results with it. I hate to use this analogy but it is what it is, man. You're just gonna believe it or not. But my results, it's like the challenge I had run into before, which I don't run into now because I coach and help and teach men, right, on how to do this. But the challenge I ran into is teaching another person how to do it, because it's like a professional fighter. Like if you have any of you done combat sports, your best professional fighters oftentimes aren't very good coaches, like because they don't remember the process that they started. Like if they started fighting when they were 12, for example, and they're in their mid-20s with a championship or late 20, whatever, they don't remember the trials and the steps and everything that they did to get them to where they're at. And so they almost have to die, and they're at such a level of unconscious competence with their skill sets that they're getting away with and maneuvering and doing things that other guys can't do on the fly because they're so competent without really having to put much thought into it. And that's kind of where I got in my game. And so I had to step backwards and dissect how I'm processing my decision making on what I'm doing with women, because I'm getting the results, but it's how do I teach somebody else, because they're not at my level of unconscious competence yet. So I have to be able to break this down in a teachable format. So that's what I've done, and that's what I'll share with you in a series of some of these videos. So when I approach somebody, or if first of all, there's a lot that I'm doing, but I'm always, my internal game is always very strong. That's a topic for another video. So I'm always, that alpha presence is always there when I'm in a room, especially if there's, a potential women in that area, okay? So I always have this alpha presence. I get noticed for that. So that's a helpful thing. And I notice and I look around, and let's say there's somebody I'm interested in approaching, okay? I'm going to notice a couple of things, all right? I'm going to notice what I call open or closed, all right? So I break it down by open or closed. So she's either open, sexually open to some degree, okay? It doesn't mean she's going to sleep with me the second I say go up to her. I'm not going to go up to her necessarily and just, mode one, hey, want to, go in the alley and, do some sex stuff or whatever. And she's going to be like, oh yes, that's not exactly how it goes. I mean, it could go that way, but open is a scale, right? It's a gradient, so she a little bit open maybe, right? Or she's closed, meaning she's not thinking about being approached or having any dudes at all talk to her, whether it's me or anybody else. Or at least she's not thinking about me doing it, okay? And so that's what I'm assessing immediately, first off. Because whether she's open or closed, that's going to determine how I approach it. All right? So, and some guys will say, don't approach unless she's only if she's open. Well, I've had a lot of success with very attractive women who were closed when I initially met them. So, especially really beautiful women, they get approached and hit on and looked at all the time, and it gets to a point where it's exhausting. And so they're not always just wanting to sit there and get hit on by you, and that's even if you are, having this alpha presence and you're an attractive guy, she just might not be in that mood. And this can make a difference in context too, like somebody who's out in an evening, like at a bar or club, is usually more open to being approached by men than, let's say, somebody who is in the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? And so someone who's in the grocery store, she's just trying to get groceries. What if she's in a hurry? You know? So I mean, that's somebody who's not open, right? But I'm assessing that immediately, and then it's to a matter of degree. So she's only like on a scale of 1 to 10. She's like a 1 open, all right? It's still a little bit open. I'm going to approach it a certain way, all right? If she's closed, how closed are we? Is she literally running to her car because she's late for something? That would be like level 10 closed, you know? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right. I appreciate it. So that would be a level, you know, -10, all right, or something, right? Closed. I mean, she's on a scale here, open up here, closed down here. She's not good, right? And so if she's too closed where you can't even engage in a conversation, that's going to be a no-go. Doesn't matter what, okay? But I can tell, so you won't always be able to tell. They're not always like, hey, I'm open for sex stuff, maybe, or no. Like, you know, what you want to pay attention to is body language and whether they're welcoming of an approach or not. You know what I'm saying? And so if they look at you, and sometimes it's a glance. Like, she'll be over here, and she might just kind of, like, let her eyes drift like that, and it's, like, real subtle. Women are very subtle. They check men out all the time, and they're subtle about how they do it. If you start paying attention to women and a little bit more and learning how to do that, you'll notice it. So I'll look for these signs, and some of them are so subtle, the average person won't pick up on it. To include her, because this is primal. So she might not know she's doing a lot of these things, and if she was asked point blank, do you find this guy attractive, she might say no. But her primal chimpanzee brain was open, okay? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that level of openness, and that'll be her body language. You know, does she try to check me out? Look, all right? Does she, if I do approach, does she point away from me, or does she kind of point towards me with her shoulders, her hips, and her feet? All right? Is she open, like, does she open her body up when I talk to her? Like, open up to have a conversation? Like, let's say she's here, she kind of opens like this. Or does she do one of these and just sort of close? And so these are different, you know. And let's say she's, I don't know, like, you know, in a grocery store, like, looking around and stuff, she's not showing any open language whatsoever because she's focused on something completely different, right? And so these are things I'm noticing. I'm noticing whether there's open or closed stuff. Now, if it's more open, then I can engage in a manner where it all depends on the degree of how open she is, and this is probably going to be a topic for another video that we have to do, or a course, because it's just can be very involved. But I mean, if she's a small degree, then I'm going to match. So you want to do what's called matching and mirroring, and then leading, all right? It's an NLP technique. And so I'm going to match where she's at and then lead her to where I want her to be, all right? So if she's only like a little bit open, but, you know, not unsure, and this is all, don't take this as genuine burning desire for you or not. It's not all about that. I mean, that's a component of it, of course, but there are other things at play here. It's subjective. It's what's going on in here. There's lots of women who don't demonstrate, like, I'll tell you right now, okay, even my LTR has massive amounts of burning desire for me, okay, more than she's ever had for anybody else. When I first approached her, though, and it was a cold approach, her body responded in an open fashion, but it was low level open because she was not having a good night. And so she wasn't, and I am not the type of guy that she would pick because I'm a muscular guy. That's not her normal type. And so, of course, it's the type that she wanted. But there are reasons and connotations. A guy who looks like me must be arrogant, must be like this, must be like that. Things that she had it doesn't matter. But put it this way, I'm not the person that she would have picked out of a crowd that she would go for. Yet she has massive amounts, like more than she's ever had for anybody in her entire life. Or she wouldn't be my LTR, wouldn't have picked her for it, you know what I mean? And so that's a lesson right there. She was open because her body could not help it, and she was also in a place where we were in a low level lounge type bar, so she was open but not very low level, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm not going to be necessarily overtly sexual or flirty or jump into kino, like kinesthetic or touching or anything like that right away. She's not open for that. I got to match her here. Now, by the end of the night, she was making out with me and then sending me pictures of herself later. And she's not the type to just send pictures to random guys. She never does that. So here's this person who is she's a well-behaved person, okay? I mean, she's not some hoe or whatever, all right? And she's very well put together, who was low level 1 or 2 open for me, but by the end of the night, we were making out and sent a bunch of pictures and things took off from there. So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? Don't discount. It had nothing to do with genuine burning desire. All the ingredients for genuine burning desire was there. It's just that at that time, she wasn't open to it. And there's a whole matrix I got to go over with you guys in another video that explains all this stuff a little bit better. But we'll just keep it simple here. So if she's a little bit open now, I can approach with normal approach techniques, okay? But it can be more towards the obvious sense of me wanting to get to know her. I'm not covert about it. I'm being overt about the fact that I'm interested. It's the only thing I'm holding back is my level of sexual interest. How direct I'm going to be is going to depend on how open she is. If she's touching me and very open and flirty, she looks like she wants to jump on me right there, I can jump right into mode 1 and make, sexual, use sexual language with her, right? Too easy. But if she's not there, if she's kind of open, like a little bit, and kind of looks at me like, oh, hey, how are you? Responsive. Then I can just have this conversation with her as if I'm trying to get to know her and I'm interested in curious. So that the frame of mind I have when a woman is open is curiosity. Okay? So I'm demonstrating curiosity. All right? And so that's what you want to do there. Okay? Is be curious, ask questions. You start off, oftentimes, depending on her engagement, if she's relatively open, she'll engage with me in conversation. And then as she engages in conversation with me and she gets more comfortable, then I play with tension and comfort. So that's another topic because this thing will get too long otherwise. But basically I start creating sexual tension, but then I come back with comfort. So I might say something a little bit flirty, and then I go back to normal, non-sexual conversations to create a little bit more comfort. And then maybe there's some kino, and maybe there's something, something a little bit more of a sexual connotation, and then go back into comfort. And so I kind of oscillate between the two as she continues to open up more and more and more. All right, so that's how that works. That's like a normal pickup approach, all right? And so that's a simple, whatever your opener is, whether you're using, a story, then a question, whether you're using, there's names for it, and I'm not really good with there's people who have a lot of names for what they do, I know, you know what I mean? We can go over the techniques, but, basically it's you're using your normal pickup stuff, right? Because she's open to it. All right, so now what if she's closed, though? So she's closed, well, the key is to get her now from closed to open. So if she's closed, she's not open to getting to know you in any kind of sexual sense. So you'll say someone is kind of focused on grocery shopping a little bit, and she's just not focused, she's just closed. You're going to come up to her and be like, hey, how are you? So, whatever, what brings you to this grocery store? Stupid, right? Like, you're not gonna, it doesn't quite work. Or if somebody at a coffee place who's just buried in their computer and doing work, you're about to interrupt them, you're not going to interrupt them with, hey, you know, or a lot of the pickup techniques are to compliment her, which I don't recommend, but hey, you know, you look really cute. I just wanted to come up to you and say hello. Like, that only works. I don't recommend complimenting. That's another thing, but not right off the bat unless it's a neg, but you know, I don't. What I do, you know, I don't. Yeah, so you're not going to compliment right off the bat if you're following what I'm telling you, but it does work to a degree when she's open, right? But if she's not open, that won't work. So what if you are someplace where she's just not open because she's focused on something different, right? Well, the key is to get her into more of an open state. So you're really just trying to get her attention, and what you want to do is you do it in an innocuous manner. Let's say she's working and it's a coffee place, right? So you can approach, you know, she's in the middle of working, she's not open yet for you to have a sexual discussion with her. But you could approach her and say, hey, I hate to interrupt you. You look like you're busy. I'm not going to take up much of your time, like 5 minutes here. I want to ask a question about your computer. And say, all right, so see, it's innocuous. And so if she's closed, you start with something innocuous. The idea is you need to get her guard down and to get her to start opening up and getting curious about you. And so now you start with that innocuous thing. Let's say it's about the computer. Yeah, so, you know, I'm running, I had one business that's kind of runs itself, and I'm working on building another, but I'm not a tech expert or anything like that. I got this MacBook, and the one thing you're working on looks like, I don't know, do you like it, or do you know anything about it, or what do you, you know, what are you getting accomplished right now? Because you look like you're pretty focused. If you don't mind taking a couple minutes of a break to talk with me for a second. And so then she's engaging, well, yeah, whatever, she's talking about the computer, you know. And then, well, then you can start asking questions. Well, what are you working on? You see? And so now you're having this innocuous, and then you're gauging, is she opening up more, is she closing off more? Okay, so that's what you're gauging. Now, if she closes off more, she's just annoyed and not interested in having this conversation with you. And so then you can end it quickly, because if she is closing, she's demonstrating a lack of desire or interest at that point. And the best way to turn it around is to end it. Because if there's ever a chance, you know, then if there is a chance, there may not be. Most of the time there's not. If it is a chance, then, you know, when you demonstrate that you are not qualifying to her in a sense, like you're too important to waste somebody else's time. You know, you're important enough for someone to want to talk to you. That's the message. You know what I mean? So like if you're like trying to still talk to her when she's getting more closed because she would rather be doing something else than talking to you, then you end it quickly. You know what I mean? And then you just kind of go, yeah, I appreciate your help. You go back to what you're doing. I didn't mean to take up too much. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of your time. And, oh, no, that's fine. And then that's it, right? Cool. So you blew that one out. That's fine. But if she's opening more, then you continue to engage with innocuous discussions. And you keep it, like, really chill, all right? And you start to escalate from there. So now she's still closed. She's not open sexually, but she's now having this conversation about this computer. Maybe she's telling you a little bit about it, what she likes about it, what she hates about it. And you'd be like, yeah, hey, that's cool. I really appreciate the help, you know? And depending on where you're at, so in that coffee house scenario, you might end that conversation, go back to your work, come back later before she leaves. Or if she's leaving, you just kind of say, hey, come here for a second. And just one more thing. You know what? I actually am a little curious about you. I kind of enjoy talking to you. Let's get together. When do you plan on? Do you work here? Do you get some of your work here done frequently? When do you plan on coming next? Or, you know, let's have a coffee and maybe continue a conversation. Or you could say, hey, you know, you seem pretty cool. Wow, let's get together like later maybe, or we should be hopefully, you know, maybe we do something next week or whatever. And you're just like really innocuous about it, like really like almost like, you know, like not unsure yourself, but just kind of like, you seem cool, maybe we should meet. You know what I mean? It's like really low key. So when she's open, you stick to kind of a low key method, and you'll get them sort of starting to open up and engage. And that's kind of like your way of closing. You just say, hey, you know what, you seem pretty cool. I actually appreciate your time. I wouldn't mind getting a drink with you sometime. When are you free next week? And you just kind of like move it to that. Or you can go with, are you on social media, anything like that? You seem pretty cool. I don't know, maybe we could talk more sometime or get together. Just grab her social media. Who cares? So if you are doing other things like optimizing your social media, having a good presence on the internet, which is really important. Even if you're not doing dating apps, I don't have Insta up right now. I need to get Insta up, but I have a pretty good presence on Facebook. So, I mean, if if I meet a new chick, I can just sometimes exchange Facebook, because I'm going to have high value pictures of me and high value posts of me on there. So it's going to make her a little bit more interested. And then I can actually hit her up in a private message sometime and be like, hey, you going back to that coffee house this week? Well, why don't we sit down and have a coffee together for 10 minutes? You see what I mean? And so you can kind of move it to that. So those are two opening techniques. One is, one is, they're both cold. One is if she's more open, it's more of a typical PUA scenario. But if she's closed, you kind of do an innocuous, very indirect way of doing it. But what it does is it sparks her interest, and you'd be surprised how successful the indirect can be. I'm a big fan of being direct. If you pay attention to the Mode 1 book, I'm a big fan of being direct. It cuts through a lot of time wasters. But I'm also, there's a lot to be said about that indirect in the beginning, at least. I use direct when she's open. When she's open to receive my direct, sexual communication, then that's when I use that. But if you use open, direct sexual communication with somebody who's not, sometimes they'll convert over, but most of the time it's a rejection. You're just going to be dealing with, which rejection's fine, but you're just going to be cycling through rejection when you possibly could have moved them along through this mirroring technique. And that's what this is that I'm describing as mirroring. You're matching their level of interest and openness. We'll call it openness, okay? You're matching that level and coming at them at that level of sexual openness, and then leading them once you've matched, all right? And there's a lot of body language, tone of voice things you can do, as well as the words you say. But the point, the takeaway here is you're going to get a lot of rejection, a lot of failures if you're approaching women in a manner where you're not matching their level of openness. If a chick is in a hurry and you run up to her on the street or something and say, hey, you look really hot and I just want to grab your phone number, that's going to be a rejection most of the time. You're going to have to cycle through a ton of those, and finally you get a girl to give you a number, right? And it's stupid because a lot of those girls would have said yes or been attracted to you in a different context probably. So you're playing a numbers game really with a lot of the cold approach. Assault a woman with asking for a number and compliments. Assaulting a woman with compliments and then asking for a phone number is really, a high numbers game. You know what I mean? And I don't have to play numbers games very often. When I cold approach, I'm not running around. I'm not spending 5 hours at a mall just running around approaching women. There's some value in doing that for some guys who fear rejection, but that's not what I have to do. It's throughout the day, and I'm using this mirroring technique based on their level of openness, and I can escalate them to where I want from there. That's if they're able to have that. If they're able to have the desire for me, then I can make that. I can facilitate that desire. I can facilitate that desire if they're able to. Now, once again, not everyone will be able to. So, in other words, for whatever reason, you're not the person that they want to sleep with ever. All right, if that's the case, they're never really going to open, and so you can recognize that right away, and then again, you just break contact, and it's too easy. All right. well, I hope that was valuable, because this is a lot of conceptual stuff, and it's a lot easier if I'm helping you one-on-one with this stuff, right? And getting you to be able to do this in a one-on-one sense. Or, hopefully we can get to a point. I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to do a course for you guys or whatever, and we got to really dive into this stuff. But conceptually, a lot of you guys are interested in approaching women, so hopefully this will help you and give you some ammo with that. But yeah, in a nutshell, again, it's you gauge their level of openness from the get-go. You match that, and again, if they're closed, then you start off closed too, meaning you seem uninterested as well, but you're approaching for like a reason. Question about a computer. Can't find something in the grocery store. Maybe they know where it's at. Whatever. Did you see that stupid thing in the parking lot with the cops out there? Something like that. You know what I mean? Just like, it's something very innocuous. Or if they're open, then it's more of a, hey, how are you? Like, I'm interested. Let's tell a story, ask some questions, and escalate from there. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of what happens when there's a woman there that I approach it. It's sort of a if you can picture a split in the diagram. Either they're closed, or they're open, or they're closed, and then how I mirror where they're at, and then I create a mixture of comfort and tension to get them more open. And all I'm interested in is to get the next step. And so the next step could be spending a little more time with me right there if we're hanging out, or it could be a location change, or it could be a phone number, or just social media. And don't discount, like I said, if you maximize your social media, don't discount just a social media exchange. You know what I'm saying? Because that can really help you too, especially if they're closed in the beginning. You know what I mean? Having that innocuous conversation. Anyways, thank you for tuning in.